Okay, welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're unpacking something really, well, different. It's a project called TATANKA.
Right, specifically their ambient concept album, Future Fossils, quite a title, sonic relics from a lost humanity.
Exactly. It's not just music, is it?
Yeah.
Our sources paint it as this mix of sound, speculative fiction.
And a bit of philosophy, yeah.
Yeah.
It's framed as this AI-generated collection of sounds supposedly found long after humans are, well,
Gone.
like
Well,
extinct.
yeah.
And these sounds are the artifacts left behind.
Sonic artifacts.
Yeah.
Emotional fossils, they call them.
So our mission today for this deep dive is to explore that. What's this project actually telling us about memory, maybe legacy?
What it means to be human when you're not around anymore, all through sound.
Yeah. Think like alien archaeologists.
Listening to echoes.
Right, and subtle frequencies, things you feel more than hear. And maybe the last recording ever made by a human. That's the territory.
It's fascinating stuff. Let's get into it. Let's do it. So first up, this core idea, sonic archaeology. What is Future Fossils really about, according to the sources?
Well, at its heart, it's presented as this AI-generated album by TATANKA. But the framing is key.
The framing being.
That these aren't just tracks. They're supposed to be actual sonic relics, emotional fossils found after we're extinct.
Emotional fossils. That phrase really grabs you, doesn't it? Like, how does an emotion fossilize?
Exactly. It makes you think. And the Who is interesting, too. These fictional alien archivists, the 𝗧𗔔𗓿, they're the ones who supposedly find this stuff.
Okay, so aliens sifting through Earth's leftovers.
Pretty much. But they're not looking for ruins, they're listening for echoes, studying the remnants of our soundscape.
Which right away brings up that huge, kind of unsettling question the project seems to pose.
What's actually left when we vanish? What endures?
Yeah. It messes with your usual ideas about legacy, right?
Yeah.
We think monuments, books.
Tangible things. But this project asks about the intangible. What happens to grief? To memory? To preservation itself when it's all just sound waves?
Which leads us straight into this next big theme. Sound as cultural memory. The sources seem pretty focused on this.
Oh, absolutely. It's a core argument. They suggest sound is maybe the most powerful way to preserve memory.
More powerful than writing.
Right.
Or images.
That's the claim.
Yeah.
Because sound supposedly bypasses logic. It hits you directly with the emotion, the memory itself. It's described as incredibly intimate.
So each track on this Future Fossils album, it's meant to be one of these emotional fossils.
Exactly. Encoding not just notes, but like a lingering presence, the feeling of the people who made those sounds.
Do the sources give examples?
Yeah, they mention a track like The Last Message from a Fading Satellite. It's supposed to sound like solitude, like longing. The feeling is baked into the audio.
So the idea is a history book might crumble, but a sound, a specific frequency or voice, could echo across ages.
Right, it could resonate, become this very personal form of cultural preservation.
And there's something interesting about how sound itself works,
Yeah.
right? Its impermanence.
Yes. The sources connect that directly to memory. How sound fades, shifts, layers. It's like a metaphor for how memory itself isn't fixed.
It decays, it changes.
Exactly. And the album uses textures, drones, hums, all that ambient stuff to capture that feeling, like listening to memory itself fade or layer up.
That makes sense. Like an old recording degrading over time.
Precisely. The soundscape is the metaphor.
And this seems really key for you listening. The sources stress that sound kind of democratizes memory.
How so?
Well, anyone can feel emotion in sound, right?
Yeah.
You don't need to be literate. You don't need to speak the language. It's accessible, universal.
It cuts through interpretation. Yeah, I see that. There's that great line the source uses.
Which one?
Something like, what remains in the wind, the static, the refrain, those are our monuments.
Yeah.
They're simply carved in waveform instead of stone.
Wow. Carved in waveform.
Right.
That's a powerful image. Haunting.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's bring in the 𝗧𗔔𗓿, these alien archivists. Their perspective seems crucial here.
Absolutely. They're the fictional group that finds and interprets all this, and their viewpoint is described as both clinical and strangely poetic.
Clinical and poetic. That's an odd mix.
Well, they're outsiders, studying us long after we're gone, so there's detachment.
That distancing effect.
Yeah.
It feels intentional. Like it forces us, the listeners, to see humanity
Yeah.
as extinct already.
Yeah, it prompts that introspection. What would we look like from the outside after the fact?
It's like speculative anthropology, but the anthropologists are aliens.
Right, but they're not, like, cold or judgmental. The sources emphasize melancholy, not contempt. There's a sense of reverence in how they handle the artifacts.
Even simple things, like someone's recording.
Yeah, like a lighthouse keeper's log or, a recording of someone teaching a dead language. They treat it with care.
So they're not just collecting data points, they're trying to reconstruct the feeling.
Exactly. Trying to feel the sorrow, the duty, the joy embedded in those sounds. And that lets us feel it, too, by proxy.
And that gets to a deeper point about legacy, doesn't it?
I think so. It suggests legacy isn't just about survival or big achievements. It's about what meaning can be found in the emotional debris left behind.
After survival ends. Wow.
Yeah. And their final verdict, quoted in the sources, is just stark.
What is it?
We heard the music. We leave in silence.
Oof. That hits hard.
It does. It suggests our legacy might be shaped less by how we see ourselves and more by how others, maybe completely different beings, perceive our traces, what they feel.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. There's this technical detail the sources mention. This frequency, 417 hertz.
Ah, yes. The subtle resonance. This is really interesting.
417 hertz, what is that?
It's one of the solfeggio frequencies. These are tones that have traditional associations, often with healing or spiritual stuff.
And 417 hertz specifically.
Traditionally linked to transformation, change, specifically undoing situations, facilitating change, or even like emotional cleansing or resetting.
Okay. And in future fossils, how is it used?
It's mixed in really low, like -24 dB, filtered. The idea is you're meant to feel it but not hear it.
Feel it, but not hear it, like a subconscious thing.
Exactly. It acts as this subtle emotional undercurrent, suggesting things like subconscious grief, maybe release, that transition out of existence.
The sources call it emotional dust in the air.
Yeah, which fits perfectly with the Uranthi, right? Excavating what's beneath the surface, even these barely there vibrations.
So it's more than just a sound choice, it's philosophical.
Totally. It implies that even the broken bits, the buried stuff, the unfinished parts of us, they can still vibrate, still leave a trace.
It symbolizes that whole process. The album's about digging into the emotional remnants.
Yeah, emotional excavation. That's a good way to put it.
And speaking of remnants and individuals, there's this story included in the project, When the Silence Came for Us, about 𝗧𗔔𗏸.
Ah, 𝗧𗔔𗏸. Yeah, this story adds a really human, poignant layer to the whole thing.
So who is she?
She's presented as one of the very last humans, and TATANKA, the project creator within the fiction, tasks her with being a curator.
A curator of what, though? In a dying world.
Not of objects. Of emotional fossils. Sounds that held, rhythm, breath, regret, whispers, lullabies.
Wow.
Forgotten love notes, apparently. She even recorded silence itself, believing it had moods, histories.
Recording silence?
And get this, she taught herself to play instruments in this totally silent world, not because anyone was listening.
There was no one left to listen.
Right, but because she wanted the walls to remember sound.
That's incredibly moving. Just the act itself.
The source calls it defiance in still creating beauty no one demanded.
Her work didn't change anything, didn't save anyone.
No, but she bore witness. She collected these fragments of human feeling while everything else was collapsing.
So the takeaway from her story, it's about the individual act of preservation.
I think so. That even someone seemingly forgotten can become this crucial cultural curator, not preserving power, but preserving feeling, human feeling itself.
Archiving so extinction wouldn't be completely voiceless.
Exactly. The source uses the phrase radical grace in a collapsing universe. Her song remains, even if the singer's gone. Even silence holds memory. Even decay deserves a witness.
Wow. Okay, so let's try and bring this all together, this whole deep dive into future fossils. It really offers a unique way to think about legacy.
It really does. It shifts the focus completely, doesn't it? Away from stone monuments.
Towards the intangible. Sounds, emotions, these subtle vibrations that might actually last longer than we think.
Yeah. And using those alien archivists, the 𝗧𝗔𝗏, it's such a clever device. It makes you step back and look at humanity from the outside.
Makes you wonder, what traces are we leaving behind? Emotionally, sonically, maybe without even realizing it.
And it highlights how something incredibly subtle, like that hidden 417 hertz frequency or 𝗧𗔔𝗀's quiet act of collecting sounds, can hold immense meaning.
It suggests the essence of what we were might be found in those quiet, almost imperceptible things.
Yeah. It's not about the grand narrative we tell ourselves, maybe.
So this project, interpreted by these fictional aliens, it's a powerful reminder that what we leave behind might be very different from what we intended.
Definitely. It's a fascinating thought experiment on memory, extinction, and how human feeling might just endure in sound.
It certainly makes you think differently about the sounds around you every day, the sounds you make, the emotions you put out there.
Are they just passing noise? Or are they tiny emotional fossils in the making?
So maybe here's a thought to leave you with after this deep dive.
Yeah.
If those alien archivists, the Oranti, were somehow sifting through this soundscape of your life right now, what emotional fossils would they uncover?
That's something to ponder.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into future fossils.